the reflex from the clinician, okay, this patient has fever, that means he has infection, then I will give him some antibiotics, and I give the patient high doses of antibiotics. And when you give a patient a lot of antibiotics, you will break the balance between the immune system and the bowel. And this causes proliferation of toxin produced by Clostridium difficile. And this is a very classical complication of antibiotic therapies. And as major symptoms are diarrhea, abdominal pain, fever, leukocytosis. And in this case, you have to know how to make the diagnosis. What do we find at CT? We found a marked wall thickening, with mucosal enhancement, and the typical imaging feature is what we call the accordion sign. You see very marked wall thickening here with edema. You have mucosal enhancement, and you have a little fat stranding and sometimes ascites. And Clostridium difficile is something you find very frequently in patients receiving chemotherapy. But it does not always harm. And this is an interesting paper published in Clinical Infectious Disease, and they have investigated almost 1,000 patients with having received myelosuppressive therapy. And in this patient, you see that only 61 had experience of Clostridium difficile associated diarrhea. But in this subgroup, only 5 developed severe enterocolitis. So you need, you have a context of immunosuppressive therapies, then some patients develop Clostridium difficile diarrhea, and then some develop severe colitis, but you know the number of patients is very small in regard of this one. And fortunately, in this series, 2 or 3 patients died in this subgroup. So here are the classical imaging features. You have a marked edema, marked wall thickening. You see the hypodense aspect of the colon. You have ascites here. You have little fat stranding. This is a patient with having received multiple myeloma. You see, it's not necessary because the anomalies are so huge that you clearly see anomalies without any contrast. In this case, the patient where we were not able to inject contrast because he had a multiple myeloma. It works. This is another case in a patient with diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, with febrile neutropenia. And the question from the clinician was, is it a neutropenic colitis or is it something else? And you see that the anomaly at the baseline, the CT was unremarkable, but at day 5 you see a wall thickening here and wall thickening here as well, and the patient developed a severe Clostridium difficile colitis. The third entity is occurs only in patients having received acute bone marrow transplantation. This manifestation is acute graft-versus-host disease. It is due to a mismatch between donor and recipient HLA. And you see that there is a window for this. It's approximately 3 to 4 weeks after bone marrow transplantation. And it is called acute GVHD. So the manifestations are watery diarrhea, severe abdominal pain, and bilious and bloody diarrhea. And what we can see is we have mostly manifestations at the level of the small bowel. It's different from the 2 other conditions where it affects mostly the colon. Graft-versus-host disease in the bowel affects mostly the small bowel. You see here, and diffuse small bowel thickening, and involvement of the large bowel, and you see here that it's mainly manifestation that affects the small bowel. Here is an example. Here you have these features, the watery diarrhea here, which is very prominent sign, and you have mucosal enhancement here. The small bowel, a rigid pattern of the small bowel. Small bowel, you don't have peristaltism here because it's fixed, it's very stiff, and this is a common feature. And to summarize these three entities, we have made a drawing for you here. Neutropenic colitis, the one with patient with severe neutropenia, you have wall thickening, we have fast trending here, and most severe complication in pneumatosis and perforation. The second entity is Clostridium difficile colitis, which consists of marked mucosal wall edema with marked wall thickening, some ascites here around, and it mostly affects the colon, and acute graft versus host disease, which affects mostly the small bowel, but it can also extend to the large bowel, and with a marked mucosal enhancement and a stiff pattern of the bowel. Let's now move to solid organ infection and the mechanism for invasion in solid organ. You have two major gateways. The first one is the vascular one, the second one is the digestive. Of course, in this immunocompromised patient, whether you have lines, tube, surgery, anything is able to cause, is a main gateway for pathogens. And from these gateways, you have a spread in blood flow, and then you have a colonization of solid organs, namely liver, spleen, or kidneys. And if you want to use ultrasound, I strongly recommend you use ultrasound because CT is not always the only solution. I like very much ultrasound. It is highly recommended to use a high frequency transducer. In this paper, which is quite old, they compared 3.5 to 5 MHz transducer. Now I would suggest going directly to 7.5 or 10, even 10 MHz transducer, because we have a much better detection rate and characterization rate than with CT. First, if we want to just to show you an example, this patient had liver microabscesses, which with 3.45 MHz is quite remarkable when we use high frequency probe. Of course, you lose some information in depth, but when you're closer to the detector, you are able to see this kind of anomaly, which is barely visible with the low frequency probe. Now, if you look at the literature, there have been many descriptions of the anomalies in the liver, and of course you can have a non-specific abscess like this. You have a hypoechoic center with a hyperechoic rim. The most typical ones are this one. For fungal infection, you have bullseye, which means you the same as this one, plus something inside the fluid here. You can have this pattern as well, which is a wheel. Within a wheel, we have two concentric circles, and you can have also this one, which is quite rare, the wagon wheel. So this is a typical feature here you can have in liver microabscesses, and again, I strongly recommend in this setting to use high-frequency probe. If you're interested, you could use contrast ultrasound contrast agent. You see, in this case, you see an enhancement of the peripheral rim, which is quite good. Here you have typical bullseye pattern. You have the peripheral rim here, and you have something in the middle. You have the fluid collection here, and you have something in the middle here. Why is it strongly recommended to use ultrasound? But for this reason, imagine one of your patients, you perform a CT for a fever of unknown origin, and you find small hypoattenuating nodules here. I would rate this, I would characterize this nodule as too small to characterize. Could it be a cyst? Maybe. Could it be a metastasis? Maybe. Could it be something else? Maybe. And you get the answer with ultrasound, because with the ultrasound you have the bullseye pattern, and in this case you are able to say that, to suggest that the patient has a fungal infection in the liver. Sometimes, however, ultrasound is misleading. In this patient, with this small microabscess in the liver was misdiagnosed as a cyst. But at CT, you see that the pattern was quite unusual with CT. In this case, you have something within the cyst. So it was not a cyst, it was a microabscess. So it's a good idea to combine CT and ultrasound to investigate this patient. Now, do this manifestation occur in every patient? No, there are risk groups, and in some patients are more likely to develop fungal infection in the liver or in the spleen. And the high risk category, I won't go in detail in this table, which is quite complicated, but mostly we have these anomalies in patients with severe neutropenia and in patients colonized by Candida tropicalis or other fungal pathology. Also in patients having received bone marrow transplantation or in patients having received high-dose corticosteroids. Let me show you some examples. This patient is a 61-year-old female with acute myeloid leukemia, severe neutropenia, and she had a fever of unknown origin. So we call the radiologist, please CT, quick. Okay, so let's do the CT, and we are on September the 4th, and then 1 month later, at first this time the CT was quite remarkable, but the patient started to develop nodules in the lung, and nothing elsewhere. And then, not nothing, but some microabscesses in the liver here and everywhere. And then we still waited, and the patient, but these nodules, these microabscesses increased in size and in number in the liver, so we clearly confirmed that these micronodules were not a solid manifestation of leukemia, but they were manifestation of fungal infection. We performed ultrasound, and with ultrasound, under ultrasound guidance, we were able to aspirate some pus coming from this region here, this subcutaneous, this peripheral microabscess here, and this biopsy yielded the diagnosis of Candida albicans infection. Here is another example. Again, 22-year-old patient, acute myeloid leukemia, febrile neutropenia, and then you see how quickly this microabscess developed in patients with impaired immune function. You see this microabscess here, and you see in 1 week after, they have increased in size here. The same in the spleen, you see some microabscess here, increasing in size here, and the same in the lung. For any reason, the clinician performed a PET-CT examination, which is absolutely useless. Of course, you have inflammation, so you have something taking up FDG, but it does not tell you which pathogen is involved. So we made the diagnosis by doing ultrasound-guided biopsy, and we swear it was another fungus which is called Georgicum clavatum. Whenever you treat this patient with antifungal therapies, we observe some changes in the liver. This is a baseline examination in a patient with acute myeloid leukemia, and the patient had candidosis in the liver and candidosis in the spleen as well. You have so many microabscesses in the liver, as you can see here. You clearly see with MRI the rim at the periphery and the hyposignal in the center. And when you treat this patient, you will get this. And what happens after treatment? And you have a dark rim at the periphery of this nodule. So you have to know this feature, and this dark rim is made of granuloma with hemosiderin deposits, because this pathogen, this fungi, tends to destroy the small vessel and cause microbleeds at the periphery of the microabscess. Just to finish with this, another patient, severe condition, immunodeficiency of genetic origin, and the patient had a sepsis worsening under broad-spectrum antibiotics. You see a difference in 1 month, how fast this pathogen can affect the patient, and this was baseline. This was follow-up at 1 month. You see many microabscesses, not only in the liver, but also in the kidney, and of course this patient died shortly. Just a few words about tuberculosis, because tuberculosis does not occur in the same setting. In patients with receiving chemotherapy or ablative therapy, you see mostly fungal infection, whereas tuberculosis occurs mostly of course, in endemic region, but also in patients with HIV. The pattern is not very different from fungal infection, and you have multiple hypodense nodules in the liver with lymph nodes. Let me show you some example. This is a mycobacteriosis and tuberculosis in the liver and in the spleen. You see the spleen pattern here, you see the liver pattern here. You see how nicely demonstrated are these microabscesses and granulomas, again with high frequency probe. Again, some other example. Only on imaging feature, it's hard to say which is which. Is it fungal infection? Is it tuberculosis or mycobacteriosis? The only clue is to know the status of the patient, either HIV patient or patient having received chemotherapy. You see, this pattern is not different from a fungal infection. Again, one other case, AIDS patient, mycobacterial infection, manifestation in the liver and in the spleen. Just to conclude, just want to convey 2 or 3 very short messages. The clinical context is very, very important. So you should mind this. It's not the same if the patient has received antibiotics or not, if the patient received very ablative therapies or not. Is the patient on the chemotherapy, or is the patient, does the patient experience immunodeficiency of other origin, namely AIDS? This is very important. You must know when the patient received chemotherapy or ablative therapy, you must know the delay after chemotherapy, because it's very important. You have to take a look at the neutrophil count. For digestive tract infection, you must be able to identify neutropenic colitis, namely typhlitis, Clostridium difficile colitis, and acute graft versus host disease. And for solid organ infection, I would strongly recommend to use ultrasound with high frequency probe in addition to CT to optimize detection and to biopsy this patient. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Kerviler, for your very interesting presentation. Now we would like to send you a certificate.